I never thought a single decision could change everything. But here I am, sitting in my small room in Accra, holding a phone call that just turned my world upside down. My father is dead, and I wasn't there. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Adowa, and I grew up in a world where everything had rules. Not just normal rules, but God's rules, my father's rules, and the rules of our church in Kumasi. My father, Pastor Kwame Asante, was one of the most respected men in our community. He built our church from nothing, and people came from all over Ashanti region to hear him preach. I was his only daughter, his pride and joy. Everyone said I would follow in his footsteps, maybe even become a pastor myself someday. I had a good head for theology, and I could quote Bible verses like other girls quote song lyrics. But then I met Ali. It was during my second year at Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. I was studying business administration because my father thought it would help with church finances. Ali was studying engineering, and we were both in the same mathematics class. The first time I saw him, he was helping another student understand a complex equation. There was something about the way he spoke, calm, patient, kind. He had this gentle smile that made people feel comfortable. His skin was lighter than mine, and he had these beautiful dark eyes that seemed to see right through you. We started talking after class. Just small talk at first, about assignments, professors, campus life. But soon we were meeting regularly to study together. He was brilliant at math, and I was good with languages. We made a good team. I should have known something was different about him when he never mentioned his family or where he lived. But I was young and in love, and I didn't ask the questions I should have asked. It was during our third month of friendship that he told me. We were sitting in the quiet corner of the library, working on a group project. He looked nervous, which was unusual for him. "Adowa," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's something I need to tell you." I looked up from my notes. "What is it?" "I'm Muslim," he said quickly, like ripping off a bandage. "My family, they're from the north. My father works in Tamale. I didn't want to tell you because I was afraid you'd leave." I remember feeling confused more than anything. Why would that make me leave? Because your father, he's a pastor. I've heard people talk about him. They say he hates Muslims. I laughed then, thinking he was joking. "Ali, my father doesn't hate anyone. He's a man of God." But even as I said it, I knew I was lying to myself. I'd heard my father's sermons. I'd heard him talk about those people from the north with a tone that wasn't exactly loving. That night I went home and really thought about it. My father was having one of his regular prayer meetings, so the house was full of church members. I sat in the back and listened to him pray for our community, for our nation, for our souls. But I also heard him pray against false prophets and those who would lead our children astray. I realized that if he knew about Ali, there would be hell to pay, literally. I tried to convince myself that it didn't matter. Love is love, right? But deep down, I knew my father would never accept it. He had already chosen my husband, a young man from our church named Joseph, who was studying to be a doctor. Joseph was nice enough, but he bored me to tears. Over the next few weeks, Ali and I grew closer. We started meeting outside of school, at the National Cultural Center, in the gardens near the university, sometimes just walking around the Kumasi markets. He told me about his family, about growing up in a Muslim household, about his dreams of building bridges between different communities. He was beautiful, inside and out, and I was completely in love. But I was also terrified. One evening, we were walking through the Kajedia market when I saw my father's car. He was supposed to be in Accra for a conference, but apparently he had come back early. My heart stopped. "Ali," I whispered, "we need to go, now." He looked confused, but he saw the panic in my eyes and didn't argue. We slipped away through the crowded market, but not before I saw my father stepping out of his car and looking around like he was searching for something. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what would happen if he found out. I kept thinking about how disappointed he would be, how angry. I knew he would see Ali as a threat, as someone trying to steal my daughter away from God. The next morning, my father called me into his study. It was a room I had been in 1,000 times, but that morning it felt like a courtroom. "Adawa," he said, his voice heavy with something I couldn't identify. "I need to talk to you about something important." "Yes, Papa." "I've been hearing things," he said, not looking at me directly. "Rumors about you spending time with certain people." My stomach dropped. "What kind of rumors?" "People say you've been seen with a boy, a Muslim boy." I should have lied. I should have denied it. But I couldn't. Not to my father. Not to the man who had raised me and loved me and given me everything. "Yes," I said quietly. The silence that followed was worse than any yelling. My father just sat there, staring at me like he had never seen me before. "Adawai," he said finally, his voice shaking. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? Do you know what this means?" "I love him, Papa." "Love?" His voice rose. "Love? You think love justifies throwing away everything I've worked for? Everything God has blessed us with? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm just in love. You're bringing shame to this family, to this church, to God himself." That's when I knew. I knew that if I stayed, if I continued to see Ali, I would lose my father. And if I left Ali, I would lose myself. I made the choice that seemed right at the time. 2 weeks later, I moved to Accra. I told my father I was transferring to the University of Ghana for better business programs. I didn't tell him about Ali, about the tearful goodbye we shared at the Kumasi bus station, about the promise we made to write to each other. My father was hurt that I didn't tell him in person, but he was proud that I was taking my education seriously. He drove me to Accra himself, and we had a good conversation about my future, about the church, about Joseph, who was now a resident doctor at Korle-Bu Hospital. I threw myself into my studies. I joined Christian fellowship groups. I went to church every Sunday at the Ridge Church in Accra. I dated Joseph for a while, but it never felt right. He was a good man, but there was no spark, no passion. Ali wrote to me regularly, long letters about his studies, about his family, about missing me. I wrote back, but less and less as time went on. It was too painful, being so close to him in words, but so far in reality. After graduation, I got a job at a bank in Accra. I worked hard, made good money, bought my own apartment. My father was proud of my success, even though he still hoped I would marry Joseph someday. Joseph kept asking me to marry him, but I kept saying no. Not because I didn't like him, but because I couldn't give him what he deserved. I couldn't give anyone what they deserved, not after what I had given up. Years passed. I buried myself in work, in church activities, in trying to be the daughter my father wanted. But there was always this empty space inside me, this hole where my heart used to be. Ali's letters stopped coming. I told myself he had moved on, found someone else, built a life without me. I tried to be happy for him, although it felt like someone had carved out a piece of my soul. My father got older. His hair turned completely gray, and he started having trouble with his knees. But his sermons were still powerful, and his church continued to grow. He remarried a widow from the congregation after my mother died, and they seemed happy. I visited Kumasi regularly, especially after my mother passed. My father and I had patched things up somewhat, though we never talked about that time in my life, about the choices I had made. "Are you happy, Adawa?" he asked me once during one of my visits. "I am," I lied. Are you? I am. And he believed me. But then, 3 months ago, everything changed. I was at work when I got the call. It was my stepmother, crying so hard I could barely understand her words. Arawa, it's your father. He's had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. You need to come. I dropped everything and drove to Kumasi as fast as I could. The whole way, I kept thinking about all the things I hadn't said, all the times I had been too stubborn or too scared to really talk to him. But when I got to the hospital, it was too late. He was gone. The funeral was huge. Hundreds of people came to pay their respects. Church members, community leaders, politicians, even the regional minister. My father had touched many lives. I stood there in my black dress, watching people tell stories about him, and I felt like a stranger at my own father's funeral. I was his daughter, but I felt like I didn't really know him anymore. After the burial, people started to leave. I was standing by his grave, trying to process everything, when an old man I didn't recognize approached me. "Excuse me," he said in a northern accent. "Are you Adwa Sante?" I nodded, surprised. "Yes. Do I know you?" "My name is Ibrahim Musa. I knew your father." That stopped me. "Knew him? How?" He looked uncomfortable. "I worked with him for many years. I was his driver." I stared at him. My father had never mentioned having a Muslim driver. "I'm sorry for your loss," Ibrahim continued. "Your father was a good man. A very good man." "Thank you," I said, still confused. "He spoke about you often," Ibrahim said. "He missed you very much." That made me want to cry all over again. "He never said anything. He was proud of you, very proud. He kept all your letters, you know, even the ones you stopped writing." I felt like I couldn't breathe. "What letters?" "He told me about your friend, the engineering student. Ali, was it?" The world seemed to tilt. How did he know about Ali? Ibrahim looked at me with kind eyes. "Because Ali was my son." I literally felt my knees give out. If someone had been there, they would have caught me. "Your father hired Ali as an intern at the church construction project," Ibrahim explained gently. "They worked together for months before you two even met at university." I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. "Ali didn't know who you were at first. He just thought you were the pastor's daughter. But then he fell in love with you. And he was so happy when he found out you felt the same way. But my father would never." "Your father was not a perfect man," Ibrahim said carefully. "But he loved you more than anything. When he found out about Ali, he was angry at first. Very angry. He thought Ali had tricked you." I remembered that day in his study. The anger, the disappointment. But then Ali came to see him. He told your father the truth, that he loved you, that he would convert to Christianity if that's what it took to be with you, that he would do anything to make your father happy. What happened? Your father told him to leave, told him never to see you again. But Ali refused to give up. He kept writing letters, kept trying to prove himself. Your father read every letter, but he never responded. I felt sick. How long did this go on? 6 months. Ali wrote to your father every week for 6 months. He told him about his studies, about his family, about his dreams for the future. He told him how much he loved you. What did my father say? Nothing, not directly. But Ali kept trying, and slowly your father began to see what kind of man his daughter had chosen. Ibrahim reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn envelope. This is the last letter Ali ever wrote to your father. He asked me to give it to you. My hands were shaking as I took it. The envelope was addressed to Pastor Kwame Asante, in handwriting I recognized immediately. Inside was a single sheet of paper, also in Ali's careful handwriting. Dear Pastor Asante, I know you may never forgive me for loving your daughter, but I want you to know that I love her with all my heart. I would die for her, and I would do anything to make her happy. I know I am not the man you would have chosen for her. I know my religion is different from yours. But love is love, Pastor. And I believe that God, whether we call him Allah or Jehovah, wants us to be happy. I am not asking for your blessing. I am not asking for your acceptance. I'm just asking you to let Adwa be happy. She deserves to be happy. I know I have no right to ask this, but if you ever change your mind about us, if you ever want to meet your grandson, please know that we live in Accra, in the Nima neighborhood. Our son is 2 years old, and he has your daughter's eyes. With respect and love, Ali Musa. I couldn't read anymore. I was crying so hard I couldn't see. Ali has a son? I managed to choke out. A beautiful boy, Ibrahim said softly. His name is Kwame. He's named after your father. When did they meet again? After you moved to Accra. Ali transferred to the University of Ghana. He found you, but you had already started dating that doctor. Ali didn't want to interfere with your happiness, so he stayed away. But he wrote to me? Every week for 2 years, until you stopped responding. He thought you had moved on completely. And then? He met someone else, a good woman, also from the north. They married and had Kwame. But he never stopped loving you, Adwa. He never stopped hoping that someday you might come back. What happened to him? Car accident. 3 years ago. He was coming home from work, and a drunk driver hit him. He died instantly. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. Ali was dead. My Ali was dead, and I hadn't even known. He asked me to find you, Ibrahim said. Before he died, he made me promise that I would tell you the truth someday, that you deserve to know. I looked at the letter again, at the part about a grandson I had never met. Where is Kwame now? With his mother. She's a teacher, good woman. She raised him to know about you, about his father's first love. I felt like my world was spinning. My father had known about Ali all along. He'd read his letters, knew about his grandson, and he never told me. Why didn't he tell me? Because he loved you, Ibrahim said simply. He wanted you to be happy, and he knew that if you knew about Kwame, you might feel obligated to find them. He wanted you to make your own choices. I thought about all those years of pretending to be happy, of burying the hole in my chest where my heart used to be. I thought about all the times I had convinced myself that I was fine, that I had made the right choice. But I hadn't been fine. I had never been fine. I have to find him, I said. I have to find my son. Ibrahim smiled sadly. I thought you might say that. I have his address, his mother's address anyway. But Adwa, you should know, she's a good mother. She's raised him well. He's happy. I don't want to take him away from her, I said quickly. I want to know him. I want to be part of his life. That's what Ali would have wanted, Ibrahim said. I spent the next few days in a daze. I went through my father's things, looking for any mention of Ali, any letters, anything. I found a shoebox under his bed filled with letters, not from me, but from Ali. Dozens of them spanning years. I read them all, every single one. Ali talking about his studies, about missing me, about hoping that someday I might forgive him for loving me. He never blamed me for leaving. He never said he hated me. He just kept loving me even when I was too scared to love him back. The day before the funeral, I went to see Ibrahim. He gave me the address of Ali's widow, Fatima Musa, and told me a little about her. She was a primary school teacher in Nima, had raised Kwame alone after Ali's death. She worked hard, but they got by. She doesn't know about you, Ibrahim warned me. Ali never told her about you. He was loyal to both of you, in his own way. I nodded, understanding. Ali was a good man, better than I deserved. The funeral was yesterday. I stood by my father's grave and cried for all the years we had lost, for all the conversations we never had, for all the love that had been wasted because we were both too stubborn to admit we were wrong. After everyone left, I stayed behind. I had something to tell my father that I should have told him while he was alive. "Papa," I said to the headstone, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was so scared. I'm sorry I let other people's opinions matter more than my own heart. I'm sorry I chose everyone else's happiness over mine. I know you loved me. I know you were trying to protect me. But love shouldn't hurt this much. Love should make us brave, not afraid. I'm going to find my son today. I'm going to meet the boy who has your name. And I'm going to love him, Papa. I'm going to love him the way you loved me, the way Ali loved me, the way I should have loved myself. I hope you can forgive me for the choice I made. I hope you understand that I was just a scared little girl, trying to do what I thought was right. I love you, Papa. I always will." And then I got in my car and drove to Nima. The neighborhood was different from where I lived, more crowded, more chaotic, but also more alive. Children were playing in the streets, women were hanging laundry, men were sitting outside drinking tea and talking. I found the address Ibrahim had given me, a small house on a quiet street. I sat in my car for 10 minutes, working up the courage to knock on the door. What would I say? What would she think? What if she hated me? What if she didn't want me anywhere near her son? But then I thought about Ali's letters, about how he had never stopped loving me, even when I was too cowardly to love him back. I thought about my father, about all the years he had spent reading those letters and never telling me. I thought about Kwame, about this little boy who had my father's name and probably my eyes. I got out of the car and walked to the door. I knocked, and after a moment, it opened. A woman stood there, probably in her early 30s, with kind eyes and a curious expression. She was wearing a colorful dress and had henna designs on her hands. "Yes," she said politely. "Hello," I said, my voice shaking. "My name is Adwa. I'm looking for Fatima Musa." "I'm Fatima," she said, looking confused. "Do I know you?" I'm Adwa Asante, Ali's first love." Her face went through several emotions in quick succession: confusion, recognition, surprise, and finally understanding. "Oh," she said quietly, You're Adwa." I nodded, tears starting to form. Is Kwame here?" Fatima looked at me for a long moment, then stepped aside. "Come in." Her house was small but clean and welcoming. There were pictures on the walls, family photos, school certificates, religious art. I saw one of Ali immediately, a wedding photo, him looking handsome in traditional northern dress, Fatima beautiful in white. "He talked about you sometimes. Not often. He didn't want to hurt me, but sometimes, when he was sad, he would mention you." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I never knew about him, about Kwame. If I'd known,
I know, she said gently. He told me about the letters, about how your father wouldn't let you see each other. He knew? He knew everything. He read every letter your father sent back, which was none, by the way. I laughed through my tears. He was stubborn like that. He was a good man. The best. He loved you both, in his own way. He never regretted marrying me, and he never stopped loving you. Where is he? Kwame, I mean. School. He'll be home in an hour. He's in primary 2 now. Can I wait for him? Fatima studied my face for a moment, then nodded. Of course. He should know about you. Ali would have wanted it that way. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Fatima made tea, and we talked about small things. The weather, the neighborhood, school. But underneath everything was the elephant in the room. The man we had both loved, who was now gone. Did he suffer? I asked finally. No, Fatima said. It was quick. He was coming home from work, thinking about dinner, thinking about Kwame's school play that weekend. He never knew what hit him. I started crying again. I should have been there. You were where you needed to be, she said gently. Ali understood that. He knew you had your own life, your own choices to make. What about you? Did you hate me? Did you blame me for taking him away from you? Never, she said firmly. Ali chose me. He chose to build a life with me. He chose to have Kwame. Those were his choices, not yours. But if I had stayed, if you had stayed, you both would have been miserable. You would have resented each other for the sacrifices you made. Ali knew that. He wanted you to be happy, even if it meant letting you go. I thought about that, about how much of my life I had spent being miserable because I was trying to make everyone else happy. I thought that I had convinced myself that I was fine, that I had made the right choice, when really I had just been running away from the possibility of being hurt. What's Kwame like? I asked. He's smart, just like his father. He asks a lot of questions. He loves to read. He has your eyes. You know, that same way of looking at the world like there's magic in everything. Does he know about me? He knows he has an aunt named Adwa somewhere. Ali told him stories about you, about how beautiful and smart you were. He asks about you sometimes. The door opened, and a small boy came running in. He was maybe 7 or 8, with Ali's dark hair and my eyes, just as Fatima had said. He was carrying a school bag and chattering excitedly about something that happened at school. Mama, today we learned about... He stopped when he saw me, looking at me with curious eyes. This is Aunt Adwa, she said gently. She's come to visit. The boy looked at me for a long moment. Then his face lit up with recognition. You're the aunt from the stories. I started crying again. Hello, Kwame. He ran to me and hugged me, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete, overwhelming love. This was my son, my flesh and blood, the product of the greatest love of my life. I've been waiting to meet you, he said seriously. My papa said you were very far away, but that someday you would come visit. Your papa was very smart, I said, hugging him tight. We spent the afternoon together, Fatima, Kwame, and me. He showed me his schoolwork, told me about his friends, asked me questions about my life in Accra. He was exactly like Ali had been. Curious, kind, thoughtful. When it was time to leave, Kwame hugged me again. Will you come back soon, Aunt Adwa? I promise, I said. Every week, if you want. I want, he said seriously. As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened, about the choices I had made, the love I had lost, the family I had found. I thought about my father, resting in his grave in Kumasi, and how he had known all along that I had made the wrong choice. But it wasn't too late. I had found my son. I had found a piece of Ali that was still alive in this world. And maybe, just maybe, I could learn to be happy. I pulled into my apartment complex and sat in my car for a moment, looking up at my windows, my neat, organized, lonely apartment, my perfect life that had felt so empty for so long. Tomorrow, I would call Fatima and arrange to visit Kwame regularly. I would get to know my son, learn about the man Ali had become, honor the love we had shared in the only way that mattered now. And maybe someday, I would learn to forgive myself for being so afraid that I almost lost the most important thing in my life. I got out of my car and walked toward my building, but I stopped when I saw Ibrahim standing by the entrance. I wanted to make sure you found them. I did. Thank you. For everything. He nodded. Ali would be proud of you. I hope so. He would also want you to be happy, really happy, not just pretending. I looked at him, surprised by his words. How did you know? Because that's what he wanted for you. That's what he gave up everything for. Don't waste it. I nodded, understanding. I won't. As I walked up to my apartment, I thought about the phone call I would make tomorrow, about the visits I would plan, about the relationship I would build with my son. But I also thought about something else, about how I had spent years convincing myself that I had made the right choice, that I was happy, that I was fine. I wasn't fine. I had never been fine. But maybe it wasn't too late to change that. Maybe it wasn't too late to learn to be truly happy. Maybe it wasn't too late to honor the love that had shaped my life, even if it had ended too soon. I opened my door and walked into my apartment. But for the first time in years, it didn't feel empty. It felt like a place where healing could begin.
What would you have done in a drawer's position? Would you have stayed or left? Comment below with your thoughts. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you want more emotional real-life stories about family battles and redemption, make sure to subscribe. You won't want to miss what comes next.